Catus Maximus here, this time with kind of an interesting tool, though not really not unique in design. Even Harbor Freight, there's been many extension handle ratchets and breaker bars. Harbor Freight Quinn has them. There's O'Reilly's Auto Parts have a power torque version, and they're usually like this. They're indexed. They have a ball bearing, and this gives you a little bit of extra leverage while also maintaining a more compact tool. But this BK Sweeney is, I guess, more of a classic one, although it's still a modern part number. And you can forgive yourself if you've never heard of Sweeney Industrial Tools. It's a company that's kind of hard to find the exact history of, but the name still exists. Owned by Interpack, which is a huge industrial tool manufacturer, which is known for like manual, portable, hydraulic cylinders and that type of stuff for machine leveling and frame straightening, that type of stuff. But Interpack is a huge corporation, and they make lots of things like hydraulic torque multipliers, mechanical torque multipliers, and they have that all under the Sweeney brand. Sweeney really ended up building up a name in aviation and aircraft, particularly helicopter service tools. And if you thought Snap-on had high prices, you should try aircraft maintenance tools. They have, the prices that are listed for aircraft maintenance tools, which are essentially the same tools as any other manufacturer, they are really high grade, really nice high alloy steels. Nonetheless, since they're intended for aircraft maintenance and they sell those markets, the markup is just massive. They are hugely expensive for any kind of given tool. As you might think, even from Snap-on, when you have a 3/4 inch drive T-handle like this, it is an extension, so we'll just measure from the top of the anvil for simplicity. In its closed state, we're at 17.5 inches. And on this one, it does have like a spring snap ring or something and an undercut in the bar. So when you slide it out, it does stop. And fully extended, this thing is quite long. Excuse me. If we measure it all the way out here, is all the way at 31 inches to the very tip of the handle. And that's, I thought this was kind of a cool design for an extension T-handle, which is something you just don't see. You see it in like breaker bars and some ratchets, but not on T-handles. Like here I have my previous Mac Z20T, which is a 20-inch one, and this thing is just absolutely dwarfed by this BK Sweeney. This Sweeney is truly a very heavy duty and super outsized. If we look at the thickness of the crossbar, we can see here that it's quite a bit thicker than the Mac Tools one. It really is intended for the high torque, and it has this kind of golden finish, which is the kind of finish that you would see on like grade 8 or high alloy bolts. It's a finish that you really don't see very often on hand tools. And it makes me think that this may not be a chrome vanadium, but it may be some other kind of high alloy steel. Now, I went by, as I've mentioned in other videos, I spend a lot of time going around the garage sales and estate sales. And most times it's just a random thing here or there that I find to keep my, in junk stores and thrift stores, which is pretty much wherever I can find used stuff. Not very much at pawn shops. I do occasionally buy stuff in pawn shops, but as a lot of viewers have commented on that, the pawn business in general is more or less predatory. It isn't just ones that, maybe buying stolen items, or the items are stolen, but they just haven't been reported type of thing. But the fact that they just offer, people sell stuff to pawn shops when they need money, and it always seems that they are taken advantage of, even though pawning stuff has actually been around since like Roman times, a couple thousand years. It's one of, it's one of the oldest of all businesses. We know what the second oldest is. Anyway, I thought, this is great. I really like T-handles because versus hinge heads, traditional breaker bars, the T-handle just stays at a right angle. Yes, the head can swerve a little or swivel a little bit, but generally speaking, they're just a bit more of a rigid structure. You just, instead of a fork, you have a rod that goes through this big billet piece of steel. They tend to just be more rigid and deliver your efforts just a little more cleanly. They're just a little bit more awkward than traditional hinge head breaker bars. But this is something I'm going to definitely use just because of how huge it is. It is a true T-handle, although we do have a undercut there to keep the head down at that end, so you can move it to the center, and you have essentially 14 inches on each side. I could see like water companies and public works using something like this to turn valves, to where you just have it way down, break the valve loose, and then move it to the center, and you have these really long handles to be able to turn the valve, and situations like that. So I thought this was just super cool. I did want to do a measurement here. Try to get this in frame. It's so long. As if we measure, and it's pretty big diameter in the tube, the measuring tape goes down 13.5 inches. So if we take it and go to that 13.5 inches, we can see that we have quite a bit of space remaining. It looks like there's, if I measure it, a little over, you know, there's about this much. It stops with about this much of this, of the bar still in the handle, so it isn't like way at the very end. There's still more than enough engagement to ensure that you're not going to warp or distort the end of this tube. And it's the first actual aircraft kind of maintenance based tool that I've ever actually owned or seen, and just thought it was super cool that it's an extension, a super high torque 31-inch extension T-handle, just super unique. Now the things that I find that are confusing, it's just, the only thing I could find was like an obituary about the founder, B.K. Sweeney, of how the company, I guess, started in Denver. But we have this statement since 1949, Enerpac under the brand name of Sweeney, highly specialized tools for the aerospace industry. And this part number, SWE63B, unfortunately is just a blank box, but it's called telescoping work handle, bolting tools, so it's still a current product. You don't get prices online from Enerpac products. They want to quote you. They want to know that they have a living, breathing customer who may not be breathing after they hear the prices. And what I mean by that is I've searched Google, and there's only one place that's willing to even remotely do a quote. For some reason, you know, this Aerovol place is listing it as a Bell helicopter Textron product, which it's not. It's a Enerpac product. But their unit price reference, as you can see, is $1,005. And that revision dates from 2014. And so that's the information I've been able to find about B.K. Sweeney. I've just like that Bluegrass 3/8 breaker bar that I ran into. I'd never heard of that tool company before, but it turns out that they were a big company that had made a bunch of stuff over the years. And it's just amazing how there's been all these big American companies, and then just the industries that they serve, there's just big swaths of people like me who are really into tools, but just don't ever run into their products. B.K. Sweeney being one of them, and this is, once again, the SWE63B. And that price, I mean, it would boggle the mind if they were charging $1,000 for this tool. Because, I mean, I could see it happening because it's something that's designed to be used with or for aviation maintenance. Anyway, just wanted to talk about it and go into more detail on just such a unique tool. And so what this is really for is all Sweeney's, Enerpac Sweeney torque multipliers are all 3/4 inch drive input. So that's what I think this handle is really intended for, is for using with their torque multipliers. And some of those Sweeney torque multipliers are crazy. like this one, the Sweeney SWE 8111. That must be for work on rotor nuts for helicopters that hold on the blades or something like that, because the specs on like this torque multiplier, 1 million inch-pounds, 83,000 foot-pounds, or 112,000 Newton meters. And the input drive, 3/4 inch drive. So with a 3/4 inch wrench, you can output 41.5 tons of torque out of that device. And I can only imagine what the gear ratio is to achieve that kind of output. And there's actually a bunch of Sweeney torque multipliers on eBay, but they're all in the range. They seem to average anywhere from around $500 to several $1,000s even on eBay. So they're not cheap tools. So if you ever run into a tool that's a BK Sweeney, know that they aren't common and they're not cheap. And if it's a really good price, maybe pick it up and have an aircraft grade hand tool. Anyway, thanks for watching.